Hi, AG Squared here. Did you know that a toilet is the only appliance that can last you a lifetime? Although this is true, the parts that make a toilet work do need to be replaced at some point. In this video, I'll show the easiest thing to replace, which is the fill valve. It's a $9 to $25 job, not something worth $100+ to get a plumber to repair. Anyone can do this. But before that, let me give you a super quick overview of the toilet components. First is the tank lever. This is what you use to flush the toilet. Second, the fill valve. This is what controls when water should fill a tank and how much. Third, the flush valve. This is what feeds water into the bowl. Fourth, the flapper/seal, effectively the gateway between the tank and the bowl. 5, the tank to bowl gasket. This creates a watertight seal between the tank and bowl. 6, the bowl to floor seal. This creates a watertight seal between the bowl and your floor. In another video, I'll show how to replace the flush valve, the flapper, and the gasket. If you find this information useful and know a homeowner, renter, friend, or neighbor that might as well, please share it with them. And as always, like, follow, and or subscribe for more content. Now, some signals that it may be time to upgrade your fill valve include if your toilet tank is really slow to fill or doesn't fill at all, or if the fill valve is making a hissing sound or just in general very loud, or if the fill valve is leaking water, if your toilet is running constantly, or if the fill valve is frankly more than 5 years old. If you're experiencing any of these issues, it may be time to replace that toilet's fill valve. Alright, let's get to it. I'll show you step by step how I replace the fill valve in one of the properties my company manages. First step is to shut off the water by turning the valve clockwise. Now, there may be different valve types, but all are very straightforward to shut off. Next, flush the toilet to drain the water from the tank using the lever. Now, if you have a shop vac, you'll be able to remove all the water from the tank. But you may not, and that's okay. Instead, simply put a bowl or container underneath here to catch the water like I am. Next, we need to disconnect the water supply line from the tank by unscrewing it counterclockwise. Now, there will be water in the line, so once you remove it, you may want to have some cloths or towels to clean up any water that splashes outside the container. Next, turn the supply line upside down to fully drain any water left inside. Now, this is an important place to keep an eye on. If your valve is not working properly, you might have some water running from the supply line. If that's the case, quickly reconnect the supply line to avoid getting water everywhere. Then, find your main water shut-off valve and turn that off, and come back to this step. I'll post a video showing how to repair a water valve in another video. Okay, so now that we have disconnected the supply line, next we need to detach the fill valve from the tank. This is where our tool comes in handy. You can get this as part of an all-toilet repair kit. All I'm going to do is attach it and rotate it counterclockwise. And once you get it loose enough, you can do the rest with your hand. Once removed, we can now remove the fill valve. But first, make sure to detach the hose from the drain valve. Then the fill valve simply comes off by pulling it off. There goes the water. And that is why we have the container down there. This is the new fill valve I'll be installing. Let's open the box and show you what we got. You can see we've just got 4 things in the box. Very simple. We've got the hose, which we're going to connect to the fill valve, and then we're going to attach the other side of the hose into this clipper. Once the hose is connected to the clip, the clip gets attached to the drain valve. Now, earlier in the video, we showed us loosening this nut to remove the fill valve. Here's a new one. This is what we're going to use to tighten the new fill valve to the bottom of the tank over here. When setting the valve in place, make sure that it sits about 3 inches higher than the top of the drain valve, but not exceeding the actual height of the tank. I already know this is not 3 inches higher than the drain valve, so I gotta make this a little taller. And the way we do that is simply by rotating the fill valve you see there. So let me go ahead and show you how to do that. Okay, I went ahead and did it. All I did was hold on to the top part with my other hand. I grabbed the black part and then I just rotated it until I started seeing this go a little higher. So let's test it out and see how it looks. We'll get this inside of our hole and then I'll hold it in place. I can see that this would close still pretty well and that it's a little higher, but it still doesn't seem like it's 3 inches above the drain valve. So I'm going to make it just a little bit higher. Okay, looking a second time, the fill valve is still underneath the top of the tank and it is definitely 3 inches above the drain valve. I am happy with this. I'll simply rotate the fill valve so that the plug where we'll connect the hose faces towards the drain valve. Now that we've got the fill valve facing in the right direction, it's now time to come down here and tighten our nut to hold the valve in place. With things tightened up, next up I want to connect the hose from the fill valve towards the drain valve. Once the hose is connected to the fill valve, it's a good idea to cut the hose down so that there isn't too much excess. Regular scissors will do the trick for this. Cut it so that it goes slightly past the edge of the drain valve though, because once you have a hose that is too short, there's no way to make it longer. But you can always cut a hose further down in case it's still too long. Once cut to size, take the hose and connect it to the clip. And lastly, connect the clip to the drain valve such that the hose is pointing into the drain valve. This is the final result for installing a new fill valve. The valve is nice and tight. Next, we're going to reconnect the water supply line to the tank. Only hand tighten. If over tightened with a tool, the watertight seal washer will break and cause leaks. Next, I'm going to turn back the water on by turning the valve counterclockwise. Now for the moment of truth, making sure it actually fills up at the right level and that there are no leaks. The amount of water the fill valve dispenses is controlled by this knob. This may be slightly different on other fill valves, but fundamentally should be similar. For this one, rotating clockwise will result in more water being dispensed, while rotating it counterclockwise will result in less water being dispensed. But let me see how high this fills up to know how much, if any, adjustments need to be made. Alright, we've been waiting for a little bit, but now we can see that the water is getting close to that water line. As long as it doesn't overflow into the drain valve, we'll be good. This one has finished, and I'm very happy with this. I'm not going to make any adjustments as it's below the drain valve while being at or above the water fill line. We did it, fam. This new fill valve will be quieter, more reliable, and fill the right amount of water into the tank. And plus, as a bonus, let's be honest, this looks a lot better than that monstrosity. Now, I'm at a house that my property management company oversees, and while I'm here, I wanted to check that the toilet seat was on tight to avoid any wobbling. If yours is loose, it's as simple as lifting these covers up like this to expose the screws. And now it's just a matter of tightening them. Once tightened, be careful when closing the covers. They can be fragile, especially those are plastic. And then there you have it, doing the small things to do right by our clients and tenants. And that's it for this video. Thanks for tuning in. I hope this was useful for you, and remember, knowledge is empowerment. And the next time you have an issue, hopefully this video can help you out and save potentially hundreds of dollars.